Hello, everybody, and welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we have the awesome Twesha with us. Hi, Twesha, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And thank you so much for coming along today to speak to us about your story, your journey in the music industry, and tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm from Bangalore, which is in India,
Yeah,
and Bangalore is famous for its lovely weather. So
and food,
as a
lovely
lot of
food
us would
as
have
well.
heard.
Yeah,
And I'm a singer-songwriter and poet based out of Bangalore. I've also done my bit in theater and acting, and I've sort of explored that self-expression during the pandemic when there was ample time and ample opportunity for self-reflection.
yes.
So that's a bit about me, but at the heart of everything, I'm a singer-songwriter. So music is what I use to express myself.
Well, it's our first guest from India. So tell us a little bit more about India, the music industry over there, what it's like, and yeah, tell us a little bit more.
Well, so India, now, when I talk about India and the music industry, in India as such, our tastes and our preferences are varied. Like, especially where I come from in Bangalore, we have a lot of, I would say, Western influence, and also, so we are, I mean, if you're aware, that is in India, when we started music, so consumption of music and consumption of movies used to happen hand in hand.
Yes, yes, yes.
So,
Actually, would. Yeah,
as so Bollywood music is like
yeah.
once upon a time was really famous.
Massive.
So yes, yes. So people would maybe go to the theaters and then watch the movie, and music was always a part of the movies.
Yeah.
Lately, that trend has sort of shifted a little bit, we can
Right.
say. Like now, a lot of independent artists are rising, and with the rise of OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime, it's like viewers are very focused on their content. That okay, today I want to watch a movie. I don't want songs to distract
Yeah.
me. I don't want the singing
Okay.
and dancing and all of that.
More
For that,
individual.
I'll maybe
It's
sorry.
more individualized, so people can choose
Yes,
what
yes.
they want to do. Right. Okay.
Yes, yes. So that's beginning to happen. And now I would say the contemporary scene is such that the music industry is opening up a lot more. And maybe
Brilliant.
that's where people like me come in, who don't have a so-called backing or contacts as such that much in the music industry. But we can still write our songs and put it up for the world to listen to. So it's really opening up slowly, which is a good scene, I would say.
That's
But yes,
beautiful.
there is a lot to go.
That's really, really nice. So, how do you get paid? How do you go around making an income from your music in India? So, how would you do that? Because the streaming model's a little bit different as well, aren't they, over there?
Right, right. So far, okay. Now, a little bit about myself is I've started releasing my originals pretty recently, around 2022.
Yeah.
So before that, I was just maybe singing covers, and I was, practicing and learning and training music. And I've been training since I was a child, since I was 9 years old.
Okay.
So talking about the revenue generation perspective of music, I am honestly yet to still figure it out because I'm not earning very much from music
That's the
myself yet.
problem, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yes, it is. It is. And especially after, I would say, like Spotify's recent announcement regarding the you get 1,000 streams and above, and then you get paid. That is something which was a little bit. It made us a little surprised. Like, okay, are you equating my music with the number of streams I have?
Yeah,
And what are you doing to yeah, and what are you doing to help us get that reach?
exactly.
So that so in respect of those aspects, it becomes a little difficult for musicians to just pursue this independently
Mhm.
to maybe pay the bills and
Yeah.
lead a good lifestyle.
I was
Yeah.
going to say to you, India is a really big country. How do
Yes.
people, do you have a lot of radio stations? Do you have a lot of venues and events where you can go and play live, make an income that
Mhm.
way, rather than making it through recorded music?
Yes, definitely we do have a lot of venues, and the like I think every other cafe right now, especially in Bangalore, has live music
Lovely.
on even
Okay.
weekdays, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that way, there are ample opportunities for artists to perform live.
Hmm.
And yes, radio stations also we do have. But then again, I mean, this is again my perspective. I may be incorrect because we were a country where Bollywood was the base.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
even in radio stations, even today, it's only the Bollywood music that gets more
Right.
exposure, I
Okay.
would say, than indie pop. So
Okay.
that scene is slowly shifting. And a
Right.
special mention that I would make here is of the indie pop of the 90s.
Hmm.
That was a different
Yeah.
ball game altogether. When we had artists like Lucky Ali, Alisha Chinoy, they sort of were the pioneers of starting this whole thing.
Okay.
And then we have people like us who sort of follow their path and
That's
path
lovely.
towards self-expression.
That's lovely. So what kind of style of music do you actually make? And how do you go about
Yeah.
doing
So I like so far I have two songs which are in Hindi, like on all the global platforms.
it? Yes.
Apart from that, I also create a lot of tracks on GarageBand. So I'm kind of, I can say, I'm not a complete professional when it comes to mixing, mastering, and sound engineering, but I can sort of get my way about on GarageBand and sort of put my ideas, on the keyboard and create tracks.
Yeah.
So far I have very, maybe you can say again, indie pop music, which is in Hindi primarily, which is our in Indian language, and I also have a couple of tracks so far. But then yes, I'm again exploring my style, and yeah. And to answer your question as to how I go about maybe writing my songs, I think it all starts with the poetry first, or sometimes it's the other way around. It starts with the chords,
Yeah.
and you sort of try to capture on the emotion and add the lyrics as it is, and
That's
and
lovely.
rest is all.
India's got a lot of different religions and it's
Yes,
music's a massive part of your cultural background. Do you think that
yes,
has
yes.
an impact on especially women in music and being accepted in
Mhm.
music? Do you think it's harder for women because of those kind of structures in place?
Hmm. So, a really thought-provoking question, I must say. But the way I look at it again, so in our culture, so we have been introduced to music mostly by our mothers and grandmothers,
Okay.
and
It's a family thing,
yeah.
generational.
In our Indian culture, the lullaby is a I think the first introduction of a child's interaction with music. That is
Yes.
when the mother or the grandmother puts
Yeah.
the child to sleep and
Yeah.
sings songs. So yeah, I mean, I don't like personally right now, talking from a very communist perspective, I don't see any difference with say for instance, women not singing enough or men.
Yeah.
But yes, when I look at the industry perspective,
Yeah.
I definitely think that women have a lot more mark to make, and
Yeah. Yeah.
even
Yeah.
currently, yeah, a lot of the composers are men, and
Yeah.
we still have our way to go there.
And does the government support music? Do you have music education in schools? Do you have people learning to play instruments? How does that work in India? Is it all
Well,
shit?
yeah. So, well, to be very frank with this answer, so things like arts and music, they
Yeah.
are not seen as full-time careers yet,
Okay.
especially
Right.
yeah, not a full-time career yet. Like,
Huh?
yes, I mean, of course, you have people who sing in movies, who do playback, and you have like say Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, who have gotten global name and fame, but that's just a handful of people,
Right. That's
for
interesting. So you mainly go
yeah,
from
but
film and acting to sing. So generally you combine the two together, is what you're saying in India. And how it
yeah,
starts.
I mean, from a consumer perspective, from an audience perspective. But
Yeah.
then again, if you talk about music education, so
Mm.
people who are really interested, I see they do it parallelly first, along with, say, that other education, your
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
degrees and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when they take off, they just take off and they become
Right.
unstoppable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
And do you find there's a lot of networking events and a lot of music industry educational panels you can go to and you can find out more?
definitely it's opening up again, I would say.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So I would say 90s and 2000s were a milestone year where things
Yeah.
started changing and shifting, and it started becoming global.
Yes.
So yes, that is happening slowly but gradually. But I would say that we are lucky enough to have these networking opportunities, online, like this chat that we are having. We just connected over social media and we're
Yes.
having a chat
So
now.
much. You know,
So we couldn't imagine something like this, say 10, 15 years ago. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. We can
it's
meet people
definitely
in
opening
different
up.
countries, we can connect, but also share your work on an international
Yes,
scale as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's
definitely.
really the point of this, and to provide education for the younger generations, for people that might be in India that also want to come into
Definitely.
the industry. So thank you so much
Definitely.
for coming along.
In fact, just to add on to that, like I recently discovered on my, artist statistics
Yes.
that though I have sung only Hindi songs so far and instrumentals are on the side, but I have a couple of dedicated listeners from Morocco for some
Oh,
reason.
I love
So
Morocco.
that
Beautiful country.
Yeah, so that way really it is very liberating to think that okay, if I create something and if I make some music, it's going to be heard all across the globe. There are no boundaries really
Well, there's a
in
massive
that
Indian
matter.
community here in the UK, so we have
Yes,
lots of
yes,
Indian speakers here as well, and across the world.
yes,
I'm sure you can make a load of new fans just by singing.
yes.
But you could always translate that into English as a kind of
Yeah.
remix version, couldn't you, if you wanted to?
Mhm. And even if that doesn't happen, I feel music has its own language. Like
Yeah, of course, it's
it doesn't have to.
universal. Yeah, yeah, it's
Yes,
universal.
it's just the soul that you put into the sound, and immediately the person listening can understand if it's a sad song or a happy song, or what is he or she talking about. So
Yes,
that's really the magic of music. It binds us. It
yes,
binds
it
us
certainly
together.
does. And it's also medicine as well, isn't it? It's kind of a release for some of that stress
Yes,
sometimes.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely,
So
definitely.
what kind of barriers have you had making your music and accessing the music industry? What struggles and barriers have you faced so far?
Right. So coming back to my reference in Bollywood, so being a musician was my childhood dream.
Yeah, yeah,
So I knew that I was going to sing and I was going to become a musician. So once I felt uh, like I finished my studies, etc., I tried approaching a couple of composers, who used to like who still make music for movies and stuff, and that's where I think I faced my first major barrier and
right. They want
reality
to
check
know.
as they call it, because
Yeah,
more often than not, they would say, "Oh my God, you have a lovely voice. Like it would be great to work with you." But that's about it. And when it comes to giving opportunities, they would give the opportunities to the same set of people
I'm sorry to
who've
hear
been
that.
there
It's
since
very frustrating.
forever.
Yeah, but you
So
know
that
what?
is extremely
You don't give
frustrating.
up. You just keep trying, and don't give
Yes,
up because there's obviously more no's than there is yeses always. And I think,
yes,
sometimes we learn from the failures or from when things don't go our way, we'll try a different way, but we will get there in the end, for sure.
definitely.
You know?
And for me, I think the liberating factor was that I started writing my own music. So that
Yeah,
is a, big time. Like, okay, I don't, maybe if I get the opportunity, good enough. But if I don't, I can set my own stage and I can,
yes,
start playing in my own play field. So, yeah, so that is extremely liberating when you can learn how to write your own music and express yourself in your
yeah,
own true words. And that is
100%.
another.
So what inspires you to write your music? What is in your music and what is your music about?
So so when I write my music, I always try to keep it a little abstract because each of us experience lives differently, right? And
Yes, that's great.
I feel I wouldn't want to give the burden to someone else of exactly articulating what happened in a particular day and what didn't
Yeah,
happen. So and also I really try to capture the everyday emotions that pass by. So it's nothing really about any special or momentous occasion, but it's all about everyday stuff. Like for instance, my first song Khoyi was
hmm,
just about nostalgia.
okay.
uh,
People
so
can
so
relate to that.
sorry.
People can relate to that as well in their own way, can't
Yeah.
they? And make
Yes,
it,
and in fact, the interesting part is different people when they heard the song for the first time, each of them thought it's a different thing. One person thought it's a breakup song. The other one thought it's a happy song where
yes,
moving on in life
yeah,
and
it's
you've left the old
amazing
path
how people
behind.
translate it, isn't it, into their own
Yes, yes,
personal experiences.
yes, definitely. So it's all about the little moments because yeah, I mean in life something momentous may happen, but the real joy is in the everyday about
It's
how you
in
lead your
part.
life every single day.
Yeah,
So
and then
that
put
makes
that
me feel
through in the creative sector in a creative way. Yeah, 100%.
yes, yes.
I was going to
So
say to
my
you,
music is
oh,
a celebration of that.
like, what's your next plans for music? What for the next couple of years? What are you planning to do next?
So firstly, my main goal is to maybe increase my portfolio of songs. I mean,
Yeah,
currently I just have a very few. I just have two singles and maybe a couple of tracks. I think around three or four tracks. So
yeah,
now I really,
yeah.
yeah. So for the next, I would say at least next 2 years,
Hmm.
my target is. I mean, as you're aware, most of us singer-songwriters, we make a song, we finish half of it, and it's there in the folder,
I've got
and we
plenty
move on
of
to the
those.
next.
I've got plenty of those written down. Half of them are
Yes,
finished.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
definitely. So my first target would be to finish, like not finish, rather it's an ongoing thing, but to
mhm,
have a portfolio of songs. Like say, suppose tomorrow if people say Twesha Ghosh, they know, okay, at least top 10 or 20 songs which belong to her,
yeah.
which
That
is her
belong to.
music.
Yes,
So creating that foundation is my number one priority right now.
brilliant.
And yes, I'll just keep learning and imbibing as the days to come, and that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah, exactly. And if people want to hear your music, they want to connect with you, or maybe they want to collaborate, write some songs, how could they find you or find your music?
They can find me on Instagram. I'm very responsive there. So my handle is at Twesha_Ghosh. Maybe I'll spell it out. It's TWESHA_GHOSH. So I'm pretty responsive there. Or my email, that's something I check regularly. So these
Okay.
are maybe two places where they can connect with me personally. Other than that, I'm quite active on YouTube and Spotify. I mean, if you just like look up my name, you'll
I'll
find
leave the
a
link.
couple of songs there,
Yeah,
which is
I'll leave the
yeah.
links in the description. So if the listeners want to, they can go and listen to your music,
Yes,
find out more,
yes,
connect
yes,
with you. And is there any major
yes.
wins and successes you'd like to share with us before you go?
I think currently for me, my major win is that I have a dedicated, maybe a small but dedicated group of listeners. And you know,
Yeah,
say for instance, if I'm not able to make new music or upload songs for long periods of time. For
yeah,
instance, last year was a very busy year for me, so I wasn't able to, be very regular with releasing music and
yeah,
songwriting.
yeah.
People actually miss me. Like my listeners actually miss me. I get these DMs like, "Where are
Oh,
you? Are you doing
that's so
fine? And when are
nice.
you releasing?" So I think so
Oh,
far that's the biggest win for me.
yeah,
Like maybe it has not yet translated to say millions or millions of streams or anything magnanimous, but having a small, say, family who listens to you and global
yeah,
family in
yes.
stuff, I think
Supportive as well.
this is the biggest win, to have that connection with your people.
That's lovely.
This is the biggest win so far.
That's awesome. Would you like to sing a little bit of your music as well before we go?
Yes, sure, I'll sing maybe a couple of lines of Khoyi.
Yeah, that'd be
It's in a
awesome. That'd be
very
awesome.
minimal guitar, so खोई 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 जो ये यादें अधूरी अधूरी मेरी जो ये बातें खो न जाए सोना न जाए यूं ही चलते चलते हार उठे जो छूट जाए ना चलते चलते खोई 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 जो ये यादें.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Well done. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you ever so much for coming along. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for
Thank you so
representing
much.
India on a global scale. And thank you for being so kind and awesome and generous with your time. Really appreciate that so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to have this chat with you. It
Absolute
was truly
pleasure.
liberating.
It's an absolute pleasure. Good luck. Good luck with the music. Keep in touch
Thank you.
and let us know how you get on.
Definitely.
I'll let you know when the podcast is out. Thank you ever so
Sure,
much.
sure.
Thank
Definitely.
you.